Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about trends in dieting. First of all, we're going to talk about what it means to be in a caloric deficit. This is the most common form of dieting. When we remove calories, we often remove weight as well. Then we're going to talk about the ketogenic diet, its advantages, its disadvantages, and finally we're going to talk about the use of meal replacements and shakes instead of whole food. By the end of this video, each of you will be able to come to your own conclusion on which sort of dieting works the best for you and your lifestyle. Okay, let's get into this video. So diving into dieting can be a scary world to navigate. So we're going to start out by talking about why dieting works or why it doesn't work. So you have to be in something called a caloric deficit if you would like to lose weight, which means that you are either exercising and burning calories, or you're consuming less food, which makes a deficit or a negative amount of calories inside your body, which forces your body to then break down fat as fuel. To achieve this, like I said, we either increase our activity or we reduce the amount of food that we're eating. The advantages to doing this is that generally are that you have long-term weight loss. It doesn't happen as fast as it would with some of the other diets that you would choose, let's say keto, or even something where you do meal replacement shake. When we do a caloric deficit, we generally slowly remove calories over a long period of time, and we generate weight loss as a result, forcing the body to remove body fat for energy. Generally, when we create a caloric deficit through diet, we also incorporate a lifestyle change. So not only will we remove some foods, we'll also incorporate activity, which can be beneficial to your overall health. So caloric deficit generally allows us to eat all food groups. We may avoid certain food groups, like let's say fats, because we know they're a little bit higher in calories, so we would avoid those food groups generally. But overall, we don't eliminate an entire food group like ketogenic diet, where we remove carbohydrates as a whole, or Atkins diet, where we remove carbohydrates once again. It allows us variety of food without limiting our food choices. Additionally, one of the other advantages to a caloric deficit would be that we have less likelihood of achieving a vitamin and mineral deficiency. A lot of times when we remove whole foods from our diet, we also remove important vitamins and minerals, which then are not replaced, which make it difficult for us to lose weight. The disadvantages to working with a caloric deficit. As with anything, we can definitely take it to an extreme. So if you remove too many calories, we can run into issues with hormone balance, with vitamin and mineral deficiency. So everything in moderation. If we're slowly removing calories over a long period of time and we're improving our lifestyle by adding an activity, we can have long-term results. Another disadvantage is that, unfortunately, this weight loss is generally slower. So although we have long-term results with regards to our prolonged weight loss, oftentimes it doesn't happen as fast or as quickly as people would hope. So therefore, they often turn to more drastic forms of dieting because they want the quick fix, they want the quick results. Another reason why people think there are disadvantages to working with just a caloric deficit would be that you have to actually do a lot of meal prep. So it doesn't involve a lot of convenience food. You do actually have to cook, and you do have to think about your calories. It requires a lot of work on the dieter's part. Some people are really hands-on with this and really do well with it, and others find it to be a disadvantage. The next diet that we're going to talk about is the ketogenic diet. So the ketogenic diet was originally used as a neuroprotective mechanism, which basically means people who have epilepsy, particularly those with juvenile epilepsy, in the 1920s, this was used to actually stop them from having seizures. So that had kind of evolved into something called the Atkins diet. The Atkins diet basically took all the same parameters, but they used it because a side effect of the ketogenic diet was actually to lose weight. So when you go into ketosis, what you do is you actually force the body into using fat for fuel as opposed to a carbohydrate source. The body always likes to use carbohydrates to burn as fuel, but if we only supply fat and remove a carbohydrate, it actually will burn fat as fuel. This can be challenging for some individuals, and it can be a very easy lifestyle change for others. The advantages to a ketogenic diet generally are really rapid weight loss. So when you remove an entire food group like the carbohydrate or your sugar groups, oftentimes people lose weight very, very quickly. Another advantage to the ketogenic diet would be athletic performance. There are a lot of professional and semi-professional athletes that have now changed the way that they eat, because ketogenic diet in some cases actually improves athletic performance. endurance as well as strength. So in a lot of cases, carbohydrates slow us down because the conversion from going from burning carbohydrates to burning fat sometimes leaves us in a metabolic lurch, which means that if I'm an endurance athlete and I am only eating carbohydrates and using that fuel source, when I run out of glucose, my body has to convert into ketosis. It will do so naturally, but that conversion often ends up with low endurance as well as muscle pain. So if I'm in the middle of a triathlon, I don't want to feel tired and I don't want to have muscle cramping. So if I remove carbohydrates right from the very beginning and force my body into ketosis, it actually improves my endurance because there is no conversion after I run out of glucose because I've never used it as a fuel source. So another advantage to the ketogenic diet or being in ketosis is your brain health. So we all know that MCT oil has become very, very popular, which means it's a medium chain triglyceride. Essentially, the body uses this medium chain fat as a fuel source. So when you drink MCT oil, it's actually utilized directly as energy. Having said this, we still have to be careful with it because if we consume too many calories, whether it's MCT oil or whether it's sugar, it doesn't matter. It still will be formed as fat within inside the body. So not only does it improve our brain health and cognitive function, it's also neuroprotective. So as I stated earlier in the video, we talked about how this protects against epilepsy. A lot of people and a lot of research is now showing, and people are believing, that this is going to be a preventative cure for Alzheimer's. So because it is neuroprotective, it means that it actually encapsulates or encases the brain cells and protects them from some of the toxins that cause degenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's. Disadvantages to the ketogenic diet. We have to remove an entire food group. So anytime that we remove an entire food group, a lot of times people feel deprived. It can lead to binging, it can lead to a lot of resentment and food fears associated to this sort of dieting. Some people really thrive on it as a short-term solution to weight loss, but long-term, it's often realistic for a lot of people. To say that you're going to remove carbohydrates permanently from your diet, let's say for the next 50 years, sometimes people just can't wrap their head around that sort of concept and that sort of commitment. So oftentimes, as I said, short-term, it's very successful, but long-term, people would go back to eating carbohydrates. Another disadvantage is that when we remove an entire food group like carbohydrates, we also remove a lot of the nutrients that come along with it. So vitamin and mineral deficiency actually can happen because we don't eat enough carbohydrates. If we get some of our carbohydrates from our non-starchy vegetables and you have a good fiber ratio within your diet, definitely ketogenic diet can be really safe and really effective long term, but you have to know what you're doing because there is science behind this sort of dieting. When we are on ketogenic diet, generally we consume a lot of meat and fats. Animal products and fat is very acidifying within the body. When we have an acidic environment, it makes it easier for disease to infiltrate our cells. By incorporating fiber-rich foods from non-starch vegetables that don't contain a lot of carbohydrates, like let's say watery vegetables like zucchini, cucumbers, and celery, we can definitely decrease the risk of having an acidic environment and breeding disease. A diet very high in fat also has some repercussions with regards to our liver and our gallbladder. So our gallbladder is responsible for secreting the enzymes responsible for breaking down fat within the body. Our liver is then responsible for creating those. If we consume a diet that is very high in fat, we often tax the liver and the gallbladder. So people who are prone to gallstones as well as liver dysfunction, ketogenic diet may not be the best choice for them. Also, when we do this diet for long term, sometimes we can stir up some issues with the liver and gallbladder as well. The last dieting fad that we're going to discuss today is using shakes or meal replacements in place of food. So the advantages of doing so is that you have rapid weight loss. Anytime we remove food from the body and we replace it with liquids only, even if those liquids contain vitamins, minerals, and calories, generally we will lose weight as a result. So if you can simply mix powder with water and use that as a meal and not have to cook at all, for a lot of people there is a convenience factor to having meal replacements and shakes. Another less commonly known benefit of removing whole foods from our diet for a short term can be that we give our digestive system a break. A lot of times we're constantly digesting food. We're always eating things that are hard for our body to break down. So when we remove whole foods from the diet, we actually stop the digestive system from requiring as many enzymes and bacteria to break down our food. It gives our digestive system an opportunity to actually heal, which it doesn't commonly get day to day. So there are some advantages to using shakes, but there are an awful lot of disadvantages as well. The first disadvantage is removing whole foods also removes the vitamins and minerals, as we talked about before, that come along with those whole foods. So even if I'm introducing synthetic vitamins and minerals into my diet, I still am jeopardizing my ability to do metabolic processes, hormone regulation, thyroid health, and brain health by not consuming whole foods. So another disadvantage to using meal replacements or shakes in the place of whole food would be our colon health. So when we don't consume fiber, it means that we don't actually poo the way that we're supposed to. When we don't have whole foods to clean the lining of the intestine, we actually get stagnation and food sitting and fermenting inside the intestinal tract. This not only compromises the amount of toxins that are placed inside our bloodstream, it also impacts our gut bacteria. So we talked about before good gut bugs and bad gut bugs. When we don't have enough fiber, it means that the gut bugs actually don't have enough food inside your digestive tract, which means we breed bad bacteria. When we have bad bacteria, we get acne, we get brain fog, we get fatigue, we also get anxiety and depression in a lot of cases. When we don't have enough fiber, we also do not detox properly. So fiber is not only important in feeding our good intestinal bacteria, it also helps us detox from the body. So when we don't have enough fiber, when we're not consuming whole foods, essentially what happens is we can't chelate or remove those toxins from the body. So sometimes we get a bottleneck of bad substances inside the body, which makes us feel very sick. When we have poor gut health, we also have poor immune health. Our immune system is closely related to our gut bacteria. So if we don't have enough fiber, if we don't have whole food sources, and we're only drinking shakes, a lot of times our immune system becomes seriously depressed. When we have a depressed or suppressed immune system, we get cold sores, we get colds and flus very easily. We can even lose our hair. Also, when we remove whole foods, we remove vitamins and minerals like we talked about before. Sometimes these vitamins and minerals that we're not getting help with our mental health. So people with anxiety and depression or even blood sugar imbalances are often not sustained and not maintained on a shake diet. So therefore, it's generally not recommended for anybody with mental health irregularities or blood sugar imbalances. So we briefly outlined the disadvantages and the advantages to 3 different types of dieting. They all have good results and they work for different types of lifestyles as well as different individuals. But tell me, what do you think is the most healthy and what do you think would work for you? I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Oh shit.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So to conclude,